Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12 of the May 2017 estate sale finds. Well, we're in the home stretch as far as the second trip to this estate goes. I've got this box full of stuff here. I've got one other item I'm going to show you tonight in this episode. And then there's a couple of large items that are outside in the dark tent, so I'm not going to see those tonight. And one of those is a cabinet that I bought, and then we're gonna have to do an episode on what was in the cabinet, because that was a nice surprise. That was a cabinet I hadn't spotted on the first trip out, spotted it on the second trip, decided to buy the contents of the cabinet, then realized how nice the cabinet was and bought the cabinet. But let's dive into what we've got here. So here's a couple of hand tools that I ignored on the first trip, even though I saw them, because I just thought that they would be overpriced, but I got a really good deal on them on the second trip around. And the first of which is this this grinder. This is a Craftsman Professional brand 2.5 amp die grinder. And what's neat about this is that all of my die grinders are air powered. So now, well, that's actually not true. I've got some Dumore grinders that I could use for doing this job, but now I've got one. Oddly enough, this is actually not a stone at all. This is actually some sort of a buffing wheel, and by the looks of it, they were using some sort of an abrasive and polishing something with this. Well, anyways, what's great about this is that now, instead of running an air hose to a die grinder, if you've got the room for a larger unit like this, this is actually marked, looks like a company marked this maybe, Grinder Rotary. Kind of a funky switch on there. That'll take some getting used to it. All right, when you push it up, it snaps in and locks, and then all you have to do is lightly push on the back and it pops right down. But I didn't realize that, and I'm trying to make this move back and wondering why it won't go. And then there's a lock here, so you can put a wrench on there now and loosen that. It sounds good. Doesn't sound like it's got any issues. Got a little loop here to hang it. I got this for like about $5. And I didn't want this electric screwdriver either, but I got that so cheap. I figured, well, I'd probably get this for the same price, and I did. About $5. I already used this in the when I was taking apart the taking the cover off of my TIG torch cooler. Anyways, this is an Ingersoll Rand. I looked up the model number because somewhere on this had the model number and it must have come off. I think over here somewhere, and it wore off. But I had to look this up because it intrigued me. Because when I was using it, it had so much torque, it was blowing the crap out of the screw heads. And what I ended up finding was that I noticed this line right here. So if you see right here, there's a black band with a red line. That red line corresponds with a number over here. Okay? And I was like, well, how do you adjust that? And well, lo and behold, what I figured out was that this pops off. All right, at the moment it escapes me, but trust me, I had this plastic piece off, and when you take this plastic piece off, it exposes a knurled knob right here, which allows you to adjust this slip clutch in here. And what this essentially is this is a torque limiting screwdriver. So I reset it so that it's not all, like 50 pounds of torque to strip screw heads by backing this off a lot. And what this is this is a production line screwdriver. This would be for basically on an assembly line where you had to screw a whole bunch of screws together, like assembling appliances or something like that. And these actually new were pretty darn expensive. And even used, these still trade for like 30, 40, 50 bucks. So I think I might sell that because it's not really practical for my uses. It's got forward, neutral, reverse switch here. It's got this nice big toggle here. It works perfectly fine. I already tested it out. I think maybe I just didn't do that on screen, but forward, reverse switch here, and it works perfect. And then also it's interesting how this cord comes off. I actually thought maybe this was cordless, but I quickly realized there isn't even room for a battery pack in there. And I think I looked the specs up online, and it's not cordless. It just has a funky cord on it. I guess that would be like if, in the factory you damage the cord, you could just unscrew this and pop a new cord on and put it right back to work. It's not going to ruin the whole tool. All right, next up, I've got this big tap wrench. It's actually got this funky bend in it right here, but it's still usable. It's a large one. Unfortunately, I think I already checked. I don't think it's a Greenfield or anything like that. And actually, to be honest, this was in the cabinet that I bought. So that's why I grabbed this, because it was like, well, I basically made a deal to buy the entire contents of the cabinet. This was one of the contents, so this is how I ended up with this. If this was just laying on the shelf because it's not a Greenfield or anything like that, I probably wouldn't even bother with it. Or maybe I would bother with it for a couple of bucks or something like that. But it's just not that great of I mean, it's big, but size isn't everything. So admit it, guys. How many of you guys were not listening at all to what I was just talking about on that tap wrench, and we're focusing on the background, the Starrett box in the background? If you're like me, it's hard to keep your eyes off of it. This is a pair of Starrett serrated jaws, one pair, 4-inch, part number 17407, and I think they're brand new. Yeah, they look brand spanking new. So these would be for a small Starrett vise that I don't own. So I think, well, I don't know. I was going to say, oh, those are probably going to be eBay bound, but you know what? I might just hold on to these, and because you never know when I might end up getting a Starrett 4-inch vise. Here's a wire brush for a wire wheel. I think this might be used. Oh no, that's right, I remember this now. Somebody had put this grinding wheel in here, and it's a Craftsman grinding wheel, 8-inch by 1-inch. So you can imagine, since it's the same size as the wire wheel that was supposed to be in this box, somewhere there's a Craftsman grinder that the guy took this wheel off of so he could put this wire wheel on, and I got myself a grinding stone. Here's a little vise I dismissed when I saw it on the first trip, because I thought it was going to be more money than I wanted to spend, and then this trip it ended up being really cheap. But it's a Craftsman. It's not a really high end, but decent. But what it is it's a quick release vise, which is kind of a handy kind of size thing to have on like just your drill press or something like that. Alright, so with the exception of this cup wire wheel attachment and this retainer for a Milwaukee angle grinder, which unfortunately the wrench is missing from the kit here, but an extra one of these might come in handy. You never know when you misplace one. With the exception of those two items, everything else that's in this bucket right here is actually from that cabinet lot. So I think I'm going to hold off on this. Oh, the heck with it. Let's just move on. So that'll help me make that episode that's going to be the cabinet lot that much smaller by just having this stuff blown through now. So all this stuff was in this nice blue cabinet that I bought that I'm going to show you in a later episode along with the other contents. Here's a funky wrench. Not sure what this goes on. Style here almost looks like maybe this would fit a vise, and that this multi-point is actually for the purpose of going on a square drive at two different angles, but it was in that cabinet. Here's a nice little I believe this is a grinding vise for use on a surface grinder. It's got some damage here, a little bit of rustification, but that I think is going to clean up pretty easily. And there's no name that I can see on this or anything. And somebody's got a black block of wood in there. I wonder if that's a shipping thing. Yeah, there's even some rust on the jaws. Not a lot, but these are neat little vices. I've got a couple of these already. These actually are pretty pricey, I think, in the MSC catalog, if I'm not mistaken. There was just some miscellaneous hardware in here, but these are not just your regular cap screws. They've got a big shoulder on them, which indicate to me that they're more for like use on hold downs, similar to this one maybe. So I don't know if you could see those or not. They're actually labeled MF40-4301. Then all of these green boxes were in there, and they're all new from what I can tell. But there's really is a whole smorgasbord of stuff in here. So these are UASA, and it says that these are locating bolts. This is a surprise for me too. See, I haven't even opened these. Are still taped shut. There you go. More of those bolts that we were just talking about. Okay, so these would probably work well on maybe like a pallet system. Hey, like maybe that big pallet block that I found. These are both the same. So 2 boxes of these locating bolts. Oh, here's the small ones. Okay, so these 4301s, these go in here. Alright, more locating bolts. MTC 2002. Alright, this is a horse of a different color. Oh, okay, yeah. Some nice big hold downs. Precision ground, by the looks of it. These are nice. Right? Maybe I could use these on my pallet system. 2102. Heavy. Oh. Couple of blocks. Same way. Blackened on the side. Nice finish on them. It's funny, judging from the box design, I would say maybe these are UASA also, even though they're not marketed anywhere else in the box. I'm gonna take one of these blocks out and see if there's any mark. Oh, this still has the nice oil on it. You know, it's funny. I thought these were brand spanking new, but if they are, they still were removed from the package and engraved by somebody, and then put back in with the packing oil or wax or whatever this stuff is on here. I can feel it's sticky stuff that keeps it from rusting. And I'm thankful that it's all over there, because that makes these things like new. 2054. Oh, those are different. The heck are these? I wonder if these are like some kind of like a stop pin or something, like a dowel that you would bolt down to a table, and then that way you could butt something up against it to quickly, you know, mount it in the same position each time. And we got one more box. Oh, okay, here's these. Alright, this must be where these screws came out of, right here. Oh, you know what somebody did? You see what somebody did? They didn't realize how these boxes opened, and they opened it like an idiot. Instead of just cutting the tape and having a nice box, they had to go postal on it. That's how you're supposed to open it. And last item from this red tray, that was actually a cabinet lot, is this right here, which is wrapped up in some oily paper. But these aren't UASA. These are marked 76-265-8s SPI. 6-inch pair F-Quad CNC1 hardened vice jaws by SPI. SPI stands for Swiss Precision Instruments, which sounds like it would be a name of quality, but we all know that that is not necessarily the case. I'm not saying it's junk, but it's not, you know what I'm trying to say. I want to take these out because I can't tell whether or not these are wet with oil or if this is water that's being retained against these things and rusting them. Man, this is nasty. Yeah, see, I think there's water that got in here. Ugh. So I wonder if this is like a standard hole size and spacing for like a Kurt Weiss or something. I don't know. Or maybe it's for a CNC1 Weiss, whatever that is. Ugh. Well, I'm going to go wash my hands, and I think we'll call it a night. So this will be the end of episode 12, and hope to see you in episode 13, where we'll look at the rest of the items that came inside that cabinet, and also we'll get a look at the cabinet and a couple other items.